And first, the sit-in, some of you may not know, but today, Representative John Lewis, historic civil rights advocate and activist, led the Congress, the House of Representatives, in a sit-in underneath the chant, "No bill, no break." As soon as they started the sit-in, it's noteworthy to mention that the Republicans shut down the C-SPAN stream so that America could not see this legislative protest. It's curious why they would do that, because it enhances the narrative, but we'll get to that in a moment. It is noteworthy to say the Republicans shut down the session. They went into recess and they shut down the C-SPAN stream. And so news of the protest had to come out via Periscope, does anyone Meerkat anymore? Remember Meerkat? And Facebook mentions live and pictures and tweets, and that's how the word got around. Hashtag number one trending hashtag is no break, no bill, no break. Essentially, quote unquote, standing up for some type of legislative action on gun control. What are we doing about in light of the massacre in Orlando? What are we going to do? Are we serious about this, or are we just playing games? Now, I'm speaking as though I'm one of them on the floor. They are there to make the statement that we should be doing something. All right, so before I unpack it, let me say all of the positive things I can think of to say about this. Well, hell, at least they're doing something. I don't know if that's maybe I should say what's wrong with it first, so that you can understand why it's so difficult for me to say something positive about it. Yeah, I think that makes sense, because I don't want you to think I'm just a contrarian. I wonder if that guy listens. This is the third time I use his word. I don't want to be just a contrarian and find something negative about everything that I see. But something happens, and I thought about this earlier today. When you cross a certain threshold of analysis and thinking about the reasons people do what they do and the implications of the political action that they're seeking in the legislation, once you cross a certain threshold, it's very hard to look back at the world, particularly American politics, through rose-shade lenses. Right? It's impossible. You see the motivations behind what they do, and the motivations become problematic along with the implications, along with the actual legislation. It becomes extremely problematic. So I'm sorry if I'm always the bearer of bad news. But the bad news about this protest is that three things, actually, and I always give numbers and end up misnumbering things. Number one, it ain't going to accomplish nothing. It's not. And that's not necessarily the fault of the people doing the protest. That's the fault of the culture and the nature of American politics today. It is essentially just pointing out that the Republicans aren't going to do anything. But then two, the thing that we want them to do is problematic in and of itself. We discussed this ad nauseum on Tuesday night, where the Democrats are rallying for a gun control policy that would be centered and based around a policy that is extremely problematic, that is extremely racist, and that it overwhelmingly and disproportionately affects people of color. It affects people with just, even if you have an Arabic or a Middle Eastern sounding name, it overwhelmingly affects you. It is an arbitrary piece of policy. It all the way around the board. It is quite, what's the word I'm looking for? It is quite counterintuitive for the Democrats to be rallying and championing the no-fly list and the terrorist watch list, because of how problematic that list is, because it is a vestige of the Bush years and the war on terror. It is it is so bad that, and it is so arbitrary that the very person leading the protest today found himself on the no-fly list, Representative John Lewis. So a few years ago, he's on the no-fly list, and he's speaking out about it. And now today he's championing using it as a means of implementing gun control that, number three, the third thing that's wrong with it, would not address the real problem of gun violence in America. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. The no-fly, and even if it could stop and what I'm getting ready to say, let me slow down and say it very precisely, because I don't want anyone to misconstrue my words. I struggle personally with whether or not this no-fly terrorist watch list usage could stop a single mass shooting. I war within myself of whether or not stopping a single mass shooting is worth the violation of civil liberties, the usage of a racist policy, of a Islamophobic policy, an arbitrary policy that does not recognize due process. This is the struggle, right? We're talking about human lives, that even if it only saved one and prevented one mass shooting, would it be worth the sacrifice that we have to make everywhere for all Americans? And I don't honestly have an answer to that. I don't know where I fall. So if it could prevent one mass shooting, I don't know. But I do know that it would not address the real problem of gun violence in America. I know that it would not stop the a lot of people are championing it underneath the guise of, or underneath the misconception that it is going to prevent the type of gun violence that kills people every single day. Right? The people, like, I saw a tweet that was retweeted by my homegirl, April Rain. Love you to death, April. The retweet that you sent out about a teacher who in the last 3 years lost 5 students to gun violence. And she did hashtag no bill, no break. And the reality of it is the bill that they are protesting for would absolutely do nothing to stop the handgun violence that is killing us across the nation every single day. And because we're putting so much energy in this red herring of a bill, even if they got the bill, we would see it and champion it as some type of great victory, when in reality it is a great distraction from the very real problem of gun violence that is ever present in every single neighborhood, and particularly neighborhoods of color, and particularly underprivileged neighborhoods. So for all of those reasons, number one, it's not going to do anything. Number two, it's championing a very bad racist Islamophobic policy, and that treads upon our due process and our civil liberties. And number three, it does not address the real problem of gun violence in our neighborhoods. I've lost students, to gun violence. And the people who pull the trigger would never be on the terrorist watch list.